Yo, Tripolar Bear. I've seen a lot of people struggling with what exact mods to be rolling on their helmets, gloves, boots, and body armors for all the new Eldritch implicits. You know, some people, they just still don't know what to use. So I'm going to go over some of the best implicits to be rolling on your gear. I'll give some build examples, and towards the end of the video, I'll even show you guys a very easy and probably the best way to be upgrading when you have one implicit when you want to upgrade it, right? So the example is going to be strike skills, targeting one additional nearby enemy. I'm going to go over the best way to upgrade that to 2. All right, so that's towards the end. I'll give some example builds, some of the gear sets. I have some POBs open. Let's go over the exact mods first. So helmet mods. For Searing Exarch, I filtered through all of the best mods here, and this is what I've come to a conclusion over. I think flat to spells, curse effect, reduced mana of attacks, and max lightning res are probably some of the best Searing Exarch mods you can get on your helmet. I prefer the curse effect and the reduced mana cost of attack, or I guess poison concoction would be an example. Reduced mana cost of attacks combined with leech is going to be good enough for all of my mana sustain, which is really, really nice. If you're using a melding setup and you're using purity of lightning, you could get some extra max res on your helmet. Otherwise, all the other slots we're going to cover are going to have a specific max res of their own. Anyways, the helmet Eater of World mods I think are really compelling. I really love all of these. Ailment duration and effect, right? If you're poison or ignite, the duration just gives you more damage or lets you have a little more wiggle room in ignite's case, or ailment effect if you need just a little bit more for all your ailment memes. 6 fizz taken as elemental is very nice to get on your helmet. If you don't have any fizz mitigation, getting little bits here and there from this, and among others like Taste of Hate, or getting some mods on your body armor, or even getting them as a Corel prefix or a craft on your helmet, or you know, you do a Delve helmet or something like that. You can get a lot of fizz taken as elemental, and that's very powerful for some fizz mitigation, right? Because then that physical damage is being reduced by 75%. That's really nice, unless you have even more max res. Mana reservation. This is a really nice one too. You can get 7% increased mana reservation efficiency. Goes up a little bit more past that if you start upgrading it, but this is really nice. If you're very, very close, your mana's all figured out, you've got minus mana everywhere, your abilities cost nothing, and you want to be able to fit in one extra little aura, maybe a Defiance banner, maybe a aspect, something like that. This can come in handy. And reduced effective shock. This is very nice in conjunction with the Minor Pantheon to give you near shock immunity. For gloves, Searing Exarch. I think dot multi is really nice. Ellie Ailment Prolif. I used Ignite Prolif on the Fire Trapper. Max cold res you can get on your gloves. Strikes target an additional target. This is very good for abilities like Lightning Strike or Molten Strike. Rage generation is something I use on my Poison Concoction Pathfinder, because Rage, if you don't know, just gives you attack speed and move speed, and that's pretty fucking nice. And lastly, Intimidate and Unnerve. Sometimes on your builds it might be a little tricky to get Intimidate in or Unnerve, so this is a very easy place to pick that up for 10% more damage or an implicit. That is juicy value. Eater of Worlds, Suppress. I've used this to suppress cap before. Sometimes you're only 7 away and you don't want to spend that extra skill point. That is very nice. Exposure. This in conjunction with one very specific mastery is very nice, and that is exposures you inflict apply at least minus 18 to the affected resistance, right? So this is a really, really nice one to get, because the glove Eater of World exposure is only minus 11. So if you take that mastery, now it's always going to be minus 18. That is nice. You can also get Wither Expire slower. This is handy for poison builds. If you just need a little bit extra wither duration, that is what this provides. As sometimes when you're only running Wither Step, it's not really going to be very, very good uptime, but if it expires, you know, 10-20% slower, that's really nice, right? You get that extra huge boost of damage for just a little bit longer. You get Fizz conversion on your gloves too. This is really good, but I'm sure if you needed this, you would have already known. You can get Leech. This is Ellie Leech, Chaos Leech, Fizz Leech. All of these are very, very nice. If you do any decent amount of hit damage, you might as well get Leech. And lastly, Pierce, right? For an extra 1, potentially 2 Pierce. Body armor is probably one of my favorites. On Searing Exarch, I love to get the non-curse aura effect. It's just giving you 9 to 10 aura effect. And since auras are so powerful right now, this comes in very, very handy for defense and for offense. You can get damage recoup as life, all max res, or you can get a specific max resistance if you're melding and you're only trying to boost fire. And you can get gain charges here as well. Now, for the gain charges at the very first level, it's going to be every 15 seconds. So if you do want to use this to gain endurance charges or frenzies for bosses, you're probably going to have to take a mastery 4 charges that gives you 100% increased charge duration. Otherwise, it just will not last long enough, and you'll only ever have 1-up sometimes. For Eater of Worlds on body armor, a specific aura effect. I like to combo the non-curse aura effect with determination or one of my offense auras. So I'll see people doing this with hatred, right? Hatred is a very powerful aura. For gaining fizz is extra cold, then doing more cold. So getting extra aura effect there, huge damage. Otherwise, you can combo this with determination, and then you just have a bunch more armor. This is very nice as well. Otherwise, the other Eater of Worlds are going to be life recovery rate and spell block. A lot less compelling in my mind than just having a big chunk of more armor. And lastly, we're going to come to boots, and we'll talk about, show some examples and builds. But for boots, Searing Exarch, you get move speed or action speed obviously being better. Brittle ground is, it sounds very nice. I truly believe this is only good on a select few number of builds. I've seen some minion people kind of be able to pull this off with their brittle ground boots being on their animate guardian. But otherwise, you have to be honest with yourself. If you're using brittle on the boots, the circle is very small, and bosses are going to tend to move like a little bit, right? So to keep that up and have super high uptime on your damage, it's pretty much going to be like a cyclone build or something like that. I think would be the best example of a brittle ground abuser. Max res for fire on your boots can be helpful too. I think a lot of Righteous Fire characters are probably using this. Totem placement speed is really nice. It's 10%, but hey man, your totem gets placed faster. It makes your build feel a lot smoother. A few 10% here and there, wherever you can get it, is going to make it feel a lot better. Offering effect is really nice. If you're a necro, maybe getting an extra little bit of block, otherwise, you know, a little damage here, or stun avoidance. I think this is one a lot of people probably don't care much about. They see it and they kind of sleep on it, but stun avoidance can be pretty nice, right? You can get a lot of stun avoidance on your jewels, and being able to get like 30 on your boots and then some odd amount on your jewels as well is pretty nice. Lastly, for Eater of Worlds on boots, travel skill CDR. This is really nice for Withering Step. I use this on poison builds because getting that extra 20% cooldown recovery rate and the withers expiring slower gives me actual, you know, little bit better wither uptime as long as I'm paying attention on bosses, which is really nice. Otherwise, if you're a general cry build, the CDR here is insane because that's just more damage. Avoid elemental ailments could be very helpful. If you're close to being capped, you can at least choose one to always be capped to, or you can go with elusive effect. So now let's go over some builds and some examples of these implicits in action. So here I have Rue's CF champion. On his helmet, he's got AoE and reduced effective shock. He's going to combine that with a reduced effective shock minor pantheon. So now he's at 95% reduced effective shock on him, right? Nearly immune, but not all there. On his body, he's got effect of curses of all non-curse auras, and then he's got effect of malevolence, right? More damage, and it gives his determination as grace a little bit more of a boost too. Actually, I think it's just determination now. And then you see in his gloves, he's got the damage over time multiplier for fizz, and he's got the leech for fizz as well, right? That's where he gets his leech. And on his boots, he doesn't have anything, but his boots are not influenced by anything. So if he was to get something, it would probably just be action speed. It could be some other avoidance or something like that, right? There's just like a few random things you can get here. When you're here, you could come to this. He doesn't need the stun avoidance. The action speed is probably pretty nice, or the move speed. Travel skill CDR, extra avoid of LE ailments. You know, you might as well just get something if you're not going to influence your boots anyway. The second build is the Fire Trapper that I did on League Start. Here you have mana reservation efficiency. In Rue's version, he went for AoE, but here I went for the fizz taken as fire, or I went for the flammability curse effect, because the AoE, you know, it really depends. If it hits you on that next threshold, then it can be worth it. But for me, I just wanted a little bit of extra damage or a little bit more survivability. We have effective non-curse auras and malevolence effect. I went for determination just to get more armor. Gloves, you have fire exposure and ignite prolif. And on boots, you have action speed and life regenerate. The last one is going to be my poison concoction pathfinder. And if you do want me to make a guide about this, I will, but also comment down below. Fizz taken as fire and reduced mana cost of attack, a little bit of defense and a little bit more ease of my mana before the leech kicks in. I have determination aura effect and non-curse aura effect, just giving me a huge boost. We have suppression helping me capped and that rage regen like I talked about. Rage is really powerful on attack builds. It's hard to generate if you're not using axes or a berserker. So a glove implicit is very easy, right? You're going to be at a max of 50 rage. So you get 50 attack damage, 25 attack speed, and 10 move speed. 25 attack speed is really all we care about. The attack damage doesn't matter much because we're a poison build and it's just going to scale our hit damage. The move speed's kind of nice, but 25 attack speed on your implicit is really powerful. You would only ever get this after a minute has passed, right? Probably a little bit more than a minute, but that's totally fine because this is going to be up and ready when you need it during a boss in a map, or it takes a little bit to ramp when you're in an encounter. But hey, regardless, you get 25 attack speed eventually. On the boots, I did poisons, deal damage faster, and then I hit sapped ground and I said, screw it, I'll just keep it. Like, it doesn't matter much. Poisons you inflict dealing damage faster is nice. It doesn't give you a DPS increase, but it will make it feel a little bit smoother, right? So sometimes I do like to take out the poison mastery, and instead of doing 20 duration, I'll do 20% faster poisons. Next, we're gonna go over the way you can upgrade your strike skills or any other T6 Eldritch mod up to a good enough Eldritch level. So this could be strike skills, target an additional nearby enemy. Max res on your helmet, glove, or boot, going from 2 to 3. This could be the last step of you getting your melding from 89 to 90. This can be aura effect on your chest, right? This works for every single one, whether it's Exarch or Eater on any slot. So what you start doing is you pick one mod, right? And we're going to focus on getting one mod to a higher level. This won't work for 2, but getting one mod to a higher level is generally like what I'm going to do. 2 is such a pain. I just want one really boosted one. So for my example, I want to do strike skills, target 1 additional nearby enemy. So what you're going to do is you spam Lesser Embers until you hit your 1 desired mod. Then you're going to go to an exceptional Eldritch currency, and you're going to get the T3 mod on there. It doesn't matter what one it is, because what's important is we're going to use Orb of Conflicts next. And Orb of Conflict is going to always favor upgrading the lower tier and downgrading the higher tier, right? The odds are in your favor when it's lower versus higher. So this should downgrade to tier 4 and this should upgrade to tier 5. And this is how you should be getting your mods up, right? So now it's T5 versus T4. And so it should be in my favor to upgrade again. And now it's T4 versus T5. And once you get to this point, you need to use another exceptional, in this case, Ichor, to get this to be a T3 mod again. And then you Orb of Conflict again, and this becomes a T3 mod. Then you Ichor again, so they're both tier 3, and then you do another Orb of Conflict, and you need to win the 50-50, right? It's 4 and 2, that's fine, because we can make it 3 and 3, and then we go again, and it's 4 and 2, we do it again, it's 4 and 2, again, and now, finally, bro, the 50-50s are over, and it's about time that you got a T2 mod. The thing is, this only works for one tier 2 mod, okay? It's too much of a pain to get another, and I don't think you really want to try to go for a T1 and a T2. I much prefer to just get one really boosted T2, and then I'll roll whatever for the others, right? Graders are pretty cheap, right? Grader or Grand are pretty cheap right now, so you can even just get more T4 mods, right? If you want a suppress, you can get an extra 2 suppress. You can get a bunch of other stuff depending on what your other pieces are. But this is what I think are the best mods for Eldritch stuff. This is how you upgrade your mods, and those were some examples of these mods in use on some pretty generic builds. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the live stream. Check out my other YouTube videos and like and subscribe. All right, peace out, homies.